regional game warden?
Yeah, the regional supervisor. Yep. Eastern region.
Hey, what's up, guys? Talking sports with Pedro and Danny, and we are doing our segment, Coffee with a Cop, and it is brought to you by our friends over at Collective Coffee Roasters. We want to thank them for the coffee. We are joined by our friend Buck, who is you're gonna have to say it so I don't mess it up.
Yeah, it'd be the Eastern Region Game Warden Lieutenant for the Department of Wildlife.
Okay, there you go. So he is a game warden. So before we get going with anything, as always, we have to, since it's Coffee with a Cop, Buck, cheers.
Cheers.
Enjoy the coffee from Collective Coffee Roasters. It really is actually good coffee.
How can you get this coffee? That's what I'm wondering.
You're asking the wrong way. You can check them out online. You can also find them on Facebook, and you can order it through there. A lot of their sales, they do have some at a couple of different restaurants around the community, but you can also find them online and on social media. So you can order it through there, and it'll be shipped to you. So that's how you can do it. But it actually is really good coffee. So before we get going with anything, the first thing that we always like to do is start this off with something fun. So, Buck, this is the first time you coming in, and we want to make it fun. So, we want you to...
Go ahead, Pedro. I'll take care of it.
Will you... You're the game warden. So
Yes.
We want you. We got a little your fishing pole right there.
Yeah. It's my personal fishing pole.
Does it kind of fits you?
It's personalized.
Yeah. So Buck brought his fishing pole, and let's see what you reel in. Come on, let's go. Come on.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're gonna have to just pull.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, hey.
The old Nevada unicorn makes a presence. Look at that.
That's
fairly seen in northeastern Nevada is the Nevada unicorn.
That's a trophy there.
Buck found a unicorn.
Last seen up at Summit Raceway, we had the Nevada unicorn out there. So, trophy Buck, or what?
If I hold it out far enough.
It's catch and release because no stuffed animals were hurt.
We're harmed in the filming of this video.
It's a good thing I may try to have my fishing lessons on me today.
The next video that we do, hopefully you can maybe find Sasquatch.
It's possible. It's always possible.
More prevalent up in my neck of the woods up in Oregon, but you never know. He could end up lost out here in northeastern Nevada. They're wanting to get out of here. Sasquatch is probably wanting to get away from Portland too, like everybody else.
So, okay, we're going to get going. We always like to do this because we like to talk to law enforcement, and especially with this, we were really excited to have Buck on here. I want to thank Julie for putting us in contact. Buck and I have known each other... who knows how long. We played Little League together. We went to high school, junior high together. I don't even remember how many classes we had together and had a lot of good times in class. So I was really, when she told me, oh, you'll want to talk to Buck because I wanted to, get a game warden on here. And I didn't know it was you. And so I called him and he said, I know you. It's Buck Tingle. And I'm like, what? I didn't even know you were living here because I know Buck was living in Idaho and has moved around a little bit, but I had no clue you were living in Elko. So we do have some good memories together, honestly, and it's really good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Good to see you, too. Yeah, we do go back a long ways. It's maybe even elementary school, I think, possibly.
Was he the same height then that he is now?
I think so.
That's what he says often, so I need to cite his sources.
I probably was.
I noticed he's got his chair sitting up a little higher than mine.
Yeah, oh yeah. There's actually a stool under it that
gotcha.
makes me look a little taller, so where I'm kind of even.
A booster seat.
Yeah. But Buck and I go way back, and you were in we had biology together, right?
In high school?
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, I remember that. And I used to go back in, actually, when I was coaching, the head coach, that was the classroom that he used. So I was in there all the time, way after we graduated. So I would just remember all the memories that we had, because
You say it had some good, interesting times in school, and that particular classroom is the first thing that pops into my mind. There was some shenanigans for sure in there.
Yes, there really was. There really was. We're not encouraging it. We're just saying. Yeah, we had some definite good times, but honestly, yeah, I'm really glad that you're doing well, and then that you're here back in the area, and that you're doing everything that you're doing. So it's good to see you again, and we'll have to catch up. And I've already told all of our entire class, and if you want to be a part of it, that I'd be more than happy with my events business and DJ business and everything that I do to plan our 20-year.
Awesome, that'd be great.
Because that's coming up.
When is that?
Oh man, too soon.
Right.
Next year?
Right? Coming up, right? Yeah.
That's
Okay.
coming
I already had my 20 years, so I know what you guys are up against.
Yeah,
so,
that's
yeah,
rough.
absolutely.
20 years.
That is okay. So we're gonna kind of get started as far as talking. So, Buck, one of the questions that I have is, what exactly is a game warden, and what authority does a game warden have? Do you guys have the same authority as, let's say, a sheriff or a police officer?
Yeah, we do. So we're Category 1 peace officers, just like sheriff's deputies or police officers or NHP troopers. We're state law enforcement, actually probably more closely related to NHP troopers in the realm that we're employees of the state of Nevada. But yeah, we're Category 1 peace officers. We go to the same academies as all the other law enforcement. We go out. We mainly enforce Title 45, which is fish and wildlife laws, Chapter 488, which is boating regulation laws. And we spend a lot of our time, off the beaten path. We don't do a whole lot of the in-town stuff, street cop type of stuff, but we have the same authority. We can enforce all of the same laws as normal law enforcement. So long as we're doing it while we're acting under game warden authority, we can do so. So we don't go out and target that type of stuff, but we can certainly handle it. We make arrests. We've made DUI arrests on the road. We do OUI, operation under the influence on the boats. And we arrest on warrants. We can write tickets, traffic violations, but our bread and butter is the wildlife and fish and boating.
So you could, if I was driving down the road, you can pull me over if I'm speeding.
We could. The caveat to that is it's more related to like reckless type of driving. The speeding end of things, we don't have radar systems in our trucks, so it had to be a pretty egregious, obvious violation for us to handle a speeding related thing. But it's more so reckless and endangering the public type of stuff. We will make traffic stops, and we do off and on. Yep.
Okay.
Well, that's good to know. I was not aware. That's like 3 of my questions were all wrapped into one of those. So that's perfect. Because you just never really know. You hear a lot of these, a lot of people that are bashing game wardens or rangers or whatever, and you're just a deer cop, and that's not the case. They're actually state officers.
Like, no, I'm a cop.
So don't make that mistake again.
I've had the remark during a traffic stop.
I don't doubt it.
You can pull me over, Mr. Wildlife Man. Yep, absolutely can.
Okay. Actually, yeah, I can. Okay, so how many game wardens are there in either our area or throughout the state?
So throughout the state as a whole, there are 31 field game wardens for the whole state of Nevada. In our region, it encompasses Elko County, White Pine County, Lander County, Eureka County. We have 8 wardens that roam around in that whole general region. As a department as a whole, we have the 31 field wardens, 4 lieutenants, 3 captains, and a chief. So not a lot of us for the size of the country that we cover.
Well, yeah, I think you kind of just answered the next question, was as far as the different ranks. Does it work the same as police does? I know you're lieutenant, but does it work the same as do the ranks work the same as police and sheriff and all that?
Like a chief, head guy, and lieutenants out of your office, or
no, in general, it's the same. The ranks are structured the same, but we're a division of the Department of Wildlife, so we're just a small portion of the entire Department of Wildlife. So we're relatively small compared to like Elko Police Department or Elko Sheriff's Office. We have a statewide chief who is in our headquarters office in Reno, and we have 3 captains who oversee different aspects of our day-to-day, and they're all in headquarters in Reno as well. And then each region has its own lieutenant. So I'm the regional supervisor that then answers to a captain, and then on up
So
to
you're the
chief.
head dude in this area.
I am, yep.
Okay, copy. Wasn't sure. I always thought kind of game warden, that was like the chief of Endow or
Gotcha.
whatever. So yeah, no, that's definitely good to know. What type of when you talk about jurisdictions, so if you come across, talk to us about how the interagency stuff works. When say you get something going on, then you have to start working with the county police. Who kind of takes the lead? How does that work? And then of course with tribal land, because I'm sure you have to deal with some tribal lands type stuff.
Oh, we do have tribal stuff that's around us. When it comes to tribal stuff occurring on tribal lands, we have no jurisdiction on that. They manage everything, so we're kind of aside from all that. When it comes to other stuff, if we come across stuff that's out of our wheelhouse, if it's not a wildlife violation or fishing or trapping or any of that type of stuff, typically we punt to one of the other local agencies like Elko SO or Elko PD or NHP. We work closely with them, and we don't take the lead on any of that type of stuff. Just like if they make a traffic stop and there's an issue, there's a deer in the back of the truck and there's questions as to the legality of it, they would contact us, we'd show up. So we work closely with them, we share a lot of information. We do run into a fair amount of stuff that out in the hills, as I'm sure you can imagine, outside of the wildlife realm, that's like, this is a little interesting, so we're going to get in touch with Elko SO and we'll go out there and work alongside of them, back them up, and vice versa. But
not your wheelhouse type of deal.
Yeah, exactly.
How big of an area do you cover, like on a daily basis? Like, I mean, do you guys just go drive everywhere? I mean, how does that work? How do you patrol, and how does that work?
Yeah, it can vary. The average patrol area size for a field warden in Nevada is right around 3,500 square miles.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's big country, and that's average. Some of them can approach up to 10,000 square miles. So, when I was a field warden working out of Battle Mountain when I first got hired on, I want to say that one was roughly 8,000 square miles or right around somewhere in there. So I was working from the Idaho state line towards about halfway between there and Winnemucca, over towards about Carlin, and then all the way down south of Austin, in the middle of the state, basically. So
that's crazy.
There's a lot of acreage, a lot of square miles, and one of us a lot of times.
Right.
So,
I was talking to a BLM ranger because we actually hit a deer up towards the Oregon border. We were headed home, and a ranger came along, a BLM ranger, and he was explaining it because he actually drove us into Lakeview, and he was telling me the amount of area that he covered was, it was just astonishing. It was halfway up into Idaho, and then the whole Elko County area, and yeah, it's just that's a lot of area to cover. So do you just operate off, do you get up one day and like, I'm gonna go out in this area because I think something's going on, or does it get reported? How do you 10,000 square miles, you can't just drive around the whole thing?
No, that's a great question. We part of our job is just being out there in the field and being present and being visible. And a huge part of it when I first got hired on was just learning the country, right? There's parts of my patrol area that I'll go without seeing for a long time.
Right.
So over the years, you start to understand, okay, this is where during this hunting season, there's a lot of people in this canyon or this unit. We have seasonality to our hunting stuff going on. So we know, in October, there's going to be a ton of people out hunting deer. So we kind of just gauge it off of that. And if we have, if we get to where we're having calls from the public making complaints, we'll pay it attention. But it's impossible for us to be 100% effective and in the right spot at the right time. So we rely very heavily on input from the public, on a lot of stuff.
It's almost like booze cruising without the booze. You can go check out all the backcountry and, hey, where does this road go? And go check that out a little bit.
Well, that's kind of good to know, is that relying on input from the public. So if people are watching, that's one of the good things too, is let you guys know that there may be something going on over here, or I saw this, or I saw that, because that at least gives you that, rather than you having to close your eyes and just go like this on the map pretty much, because with that big of an area, I'm assuming that's pretty much what you got to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's days where in a rural enough patrol area, patrol position, you'll go all day long without seeing another person. But we try to avoid those days. We try to be where the people are. But yeah, input from the public is huge. I mean, we make most of our good cases that we end up getting are more often than not, they're not from us just being there and stumbling across it. We're getting a call from someone that says, hey, I saw this on this day at this time. You might want to look into it. So that's huge for us.
So do you kind of base it, do you also kind of take into consideration the hunting seasons and the good hunting spots, or the hunting spots that you're not supposed to be hunting on, or things like that? Does that come into consideration when you decide, okay, we're gonna patrol this area because we've had some stuff that has happened here, some poaching or whatever it is? Does that come into consideration?
Absolutely, yeah. That plays a big role in our decision making on where we're going to spend our time at. We, like I said, over the years, you kind of get an idea of where the people congregate. Where the popular spots are. You mentioned earlier getting to go cruise around on the back roads and drive the dirt roads type of thing, which is it's an awesome part of the job, but it's also really important because I can go out and I can find deer, I can find elk, I can see where the critters are at, and so I know where people are going to be drawn to once that season opens, and I can try to be in the right area at the right time. And if we start finding that we have problem areas where people are calling and saying, hey, you might want to look into such and such canyon up in here, then sometimes we'll put a project together. We'll go up and have multiple officers running around. It's very dynamic. It's ever changing, which is awesome part of the job.
Do you hunt?
I do. Yep.
Do you? And I was gonna. I mean, that's a lot of scouting. I mean, you can scout for yourself and tell somebody that's driving in, oh, you don't want to go up to that unit. Yeah, it's bear.
That'd be huge if I could draw a tag every year.
That's my
awesome.
buck over there. Right? So that's a good segue. Speaking of areas and areas that you guys patrol. So talking about hunting areas, who decides and how is it decided where these hunting areas are at? Because I think Danny has the map up, and I think there was
286 units.
Is that right?
There's a lot of units. Yeah.
286 units. That's absurd.
Yep. And I can't speak right now as to how that originated originally, but on the biological aspect of it, the units are set up in a way where they can assign certain units for certain times of the year to give out X amount of tags for, and they can be fairly confident that they're going to be hunting this population of animals. So that's kind of how they figure out what units they want to have and where. Typically, they're divided up by pretty good boundaries like highways, rivers, county roads, dirt roads. That way, people can see where the boundaries are at, and helps make it easier to know where you're at, to know which animals you're hunting. So that's kind of the main aspect of it, was to know that in this mountain range they have X amount of elk, and to properly manage the herd they only want to kill Y number of animals, so they're only going to assign this many tags in units 1, 2, 3, 4.
So does Department of Wildlife and Department of Agriculture work together on that, or does the Department of Wildlife they're the ones that are going out, and there's obviously somebody else within your department that does the animal counting and all that type of stuff? Yeah,
so we have our biologists, we have a game division, habitat division, fisheries division. We have all sorts of different divisions within our department that handle different aspects, and the biologists are the ones that go out. They do aerial surveys, they go fly, they go count elk, deer, antelope, and they are doing population estimates based on that. And then from there, they go to the Wildlife Commission, which is a public board to kind of help keep some fairness there, to not make it seem like the department saying, oh, we say that there's this many amount of animals that need to be killed. It gives the public some input.
Not like the recent congressional redistricting, right?
We're not.
I can't.
Sorry, I had to throw that out there.
So yeah, the biologists do their thing. They come with their recommendations, and it goes to the wildlife, from the county advisory boards up to the Wildlife Commission, and the decisions are made at that level.
So I guess Danny, I'll let you take the next question, because that one kind of got me thinking a little bit. Just because, so how do you know? Especially, I'd imagine it'd be really hard, because sometimes I'm assuming that with some of the areas, it's not like they have a spray painted line that shows you, okay, this is area 7, this is area 8. So does that like make it hard for you guys to kind of patrol it? Like if I'm hunting in Area 7 and then I decide to walk over to Area 8 because it's just right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
When it comes to our in-state division of hunting units, some of them can be a little bit confusing. But like I said, they try to utilize certain roads or drainages or rivers or creeks. So it's pretty well laid out. And then on the back of the map that you were looking at, there's explanations as to what the boundary is.
Right.
Sometimes it's a county line, which is not properly marked out on the ground. So it makes it interesting sometimes to But the biggest issue we've run into is not the in-state hunt unit boundaries, but it's state line boundaries.
Oh wow.
So we try to mark state lines, but we still have issues off and on where we have an Idaho or Utah hunter end up over on the Nevada side killing a Nevada deer.
So, not to interrupt you, but yeah, that was so. How often do you see or do you run across somebody who plays dumb or whatever, or tries to say, "Well, I shot him up there and he ran over here"? I mean, do you ever run across that stuff? And how do you combat that? Because I mean, obviously, if you're checking a blood trail or something like that. But if it's raining outside, you can't really see much. I mean, and somebody's right on the area of that edge. What happens there?
So when it comes to combating the playing dumb part of it, from our perspective, we have to always assume someone's trying to pull the wool over our eyes, right? So, whenever we contact someone, we have to be skeptical of their story if a law has been broken. But it's also our responsibility to prove what happened, right? So intentionality can and cannot, may or may not play a role in some of this stuff. But with today's technology, with online mapping phones, you can get mapping devices downloaded onto your phone that tells you exactly where you're at, where our hunt units are at, even where state line boundaries are at. So it makes it harder and harder as our technology progresses to have that excuse like, oh, I didn't know,
right.
And a lot of times there are aspects where people make honest mistakes, and we do our best to be understanding of that and to understand that people, don't always intentionally break the laws. And in those scenarios, we treat it as fairly as we can. But I have the discussion with people all the time. If I pass an NHP trooper and I look down, I'm going 10 over the speed limit and I get pulled over, I may not have intended to do that, but I'm probably getting a ticket for that,
Right,
So
right. Yeah, exactly.
It's not the crime of a century, but the violation happened, and at some point you got to own up to it. So it's just a matter of how you handle it.
Right, and a lot of people don't understand that hunting laws. I mean, if you break some of those hunting laws, those are big laws. That's going to change the direction of your life. I mean, if you're young and you do something stupid as far as poaching or even shooting from a vehicle, right? You can't actually, because I know a lot of people like to road hunt, right? So can you actually shoot out of your vehicle?
No, you can't. It's illegal to shoot from a vehicle. It's also illegal to have a loaded long gun, shotgun, or rifle in the vehicle with you. So driving down the dirt road, you can have rounds in the magazine, but if you have one in the chamber, that's illegal, and we do cite on that multiple times a year.
Oh, wow.
Because that just makes it that much easier for an accident to happen and someone get hurt or worse, killed, out there with a loaded firearm in the truck.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
absolutely.
As to the levels of violations, most of our stuff is misdemeanor level. We do have some obviously more serious stuff where it can get up into the gross misdemeanor and even felony realm for intentionally killing a big game animal.
Okay, that is very good to know. I think I knew that because that was my dad when we would go hunting. That was one of the biggest things. We would always stop right before a little bit before we would get over to the highway, and we'd take the guns out and take the magazines out, take all the bullets out, and make sure we put the guns away. Actually, the first deer that I shot, we were still out in the hills. We were over by Wells. I think we were Area 7, but we were on our way out. We had already unloaded the guns and everything, and we saw some bucks, and he stopped the truck and get the gun, and so I had to like reload and and that was my first buck. Actually, I was in it was my sophomore year, but yeah, we were still way out there. But my dad was huge on that, saying when you could see the highway, we would take everything out, and there you go. Like even the magazines, everything, we would unload it.
That's the safest way to do it. I've had the conversation with people all the time that if having that round in the chamber makes a difference between getting a shot off or not, you're probably shouldn't be taking the shot. You know, you're rushing it. It's just not a good situation. So, yeah, it's important.
What's the biggest elk you've ever bagged?
Well, I've only bagged one bull elk so far. It was about a 350 class 6x6 bull elk. It's a great bull, you know, and that was back in 2016. So I'm in my wait period and start applying here in a couple of years and probably wait 10-ish years again and maybe get to shoot another bull elk. But we'll see.
Where was that at?
That was down closer to Ely.
That's what I figured.
Yep.
I knew he was going to say that.
Hey, we got some big elk up around here too, you know.
Yeah, I've only seen one bull elk the times I've been hunting in this area.
Oh, gotcha.
But maybe you just know where to find them and need to let me know. He's the one that explores and scouts for himself. Bro.
I'm always willing to help out.
He's the guy to talk to if you draw a tag. So
just don't ask for my honey hole. I'm not giving it to you.
I was gonna say. So I've got a lot of hunting friends that are from around here, and I grew up around hunting. I don't actively hunt myself. I love the woods. I just don't do it. So I always hear him talking. Yeah, I got a tag in 072 or 077. So what are the tags? So if I'm looking for a bull, or let's say a little easier. Let's just say I'm looking for a deer tag. What are some of the areas? What are the better areas to go into?
Well, that's the great thing about our state of Nevada is it's the curse and the blessing, right? Is we're a 100% draw state, so you're not going to get a tag every year. But with the draw comes, in my opinion, really good quality hunting. So when you do get a tag, you stand a great chance of harvesting a quality animal if you put the time and effort into it. When it comes to what the primo tags are, typically those kind of coincide with seasonality, like time of the year. So around here, there's portions of our county up in the northeast corner, 081. Their hunts are later into November. When the deer are starting to rut and move around a little bit more. The later rifle tags for all the units are typically pushing end of October and early November. Tends to get the deer moving more.
Copy.
People like those, but with that comes a harder draw.
Yeah.
They're harder to draw with those types of hunts. So what I typically do personally, little pro tip is, and it doesn't really matter what units you're preferring. I do a lot of research. You can find all this stuff online. Draw odds, quality of animals, it's all available. And I put probably two or three really hard to draw hunts at the top of my list. We get 5 choices. So I put the 2 harder to draw ones that are really super high quality, good hunts up at the top. And then my last couple of choices are typically, a lot better odds, easier to draw hunts. And I figure if I get that far down the list, I get to go hunting.
Right.
And can still bag a great animal.
Yeah, I've got a lot of respect for. So we're friends with the guys from 7-7 Outside. They do a lot of video filming and whatnot. They got and Joe's coming home for Thanksgiving, going back out. But I've got a lot of respect for those archery hunters, man. I tell you what, and especially when you're hunting in like November, and that country up headed towards Idaho, man, that's not real friendly country. And you throw a couple foot of snow in the mix of that, and archery hunting, that's some patience, and I've got a lot of respect for those guys who put in that work.
My little brother got into archery hunting. I've never done it. I went with him, but I've never done it. He had to wash my clothes in his special detergent and do all that stuff. And, it definitely is a entirely different realm as far as hunting goes. You got to be very patient, and you got to know where the right spot is at.
Oh, I agree 100%. I've hunted archery a couple of times, and I've yet to harvest an animal with the bow. I've been within bow distance and still couldn't get a shot off. It's challenging to get that close and have the stars align and have that perfect opportunity to get a shot off. And most of our archery tags, they occur in August time frame usually, which is super hot. You're out there sweating your butt off, hiking all over the hills, and then you sneak up on an animal that took you 2 hours to get there, and then you blow them out of there. And oh man, I agree. I got a lot of respect for guys that do it year in and year out, because I'd rather take a rifle out there with me and have a better chance of getting something I can fill my freezer with.
What's your favorite rifle?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. What do you shoot?
I have a couple different ones. I have a 7mm mag that my dad bought for me. It was my first bigger rifle. But my favorite rifle is it's near and dear to my heart because it was passed on to my dad, and it's passed on to me from my dad, who's no longer with me. It's a 25-06 Winchester Model 70, and that thing has got the original fixed power, 6-power scope on it. Just super old school gun, and I shoot an animal with it every chance I get.
Nice.
My last one I shot with it was an antelope tag I had. I took that thing out there, and just to this day, it works great. My preferred hunt though is I prefer muzzleloader hunting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I go out muzzleloader hunting. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun one because there's not as many people in the field. It's a little more challenging. It's obviously in between archery and rifle hunting. You get the one-shot opportunity, then you got to reload down the barrel of the gun. Seasonality is great, September-ish time frame, so it's cooling off, but still not too cold and not too hot. So I enjoy muzzleloader season.
What was the first rifle you ever shot, Pedro?
Well, 22.
Other than a 22.
Yeah,
Other than a 22.
Well, when I 243.
243.
Yeah, and then I moved up to a 30-06.
So this will blow you. The first rifle I ever shot was a 357.
Really?
And people are like, "No bullshit, that's a handgun." Yes, it is a handgun, but no, it was my grandma's gun. It was a little short guy. It kicked pretty good, and I was 12, and yeah, it got me on the chin a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, that was the first big power rifle. I don't know, man. Whatever. I wasn't strong enough to hold it apparently.
Have you ever shot a 50 cal?
I have actually.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'm kind of. I don't know that I'd want to because then I'd end up.
I
like
want to
that with
watch
with
you
the
shoot a
black
50
guy.
cal.
No, they're impressive. They're a lot of fun. It's for as big a gun as it is. They're designed to not have the big kick that you would expect them to. But
I'm a little guy. I think you forget that.
now that I think about it, I think it was probably bigger than you are. Yeah.
Probably. My buddy has he's huge into guns. I don't even know how many he has, but he has a Desert Eagle. The first time I shot that thing, I mean, I was like, I was ready for a kick, and it doesn't have like a crazy kick, but it's definitely not like shooting like a Glock or something.
Yeah,
like
for
that.
sure.
That's for sure. So, that was But that's the first gun, a 243. That's what I killed. How I got my.
It's a good deer rifle. It really is. Yeah, really good, quick deer rifle. Sure. Let's shift gears a little bit to some fishing. So, what kind of stuff do you come across? What kind of illegal stuff that happens out there when you're not catching unicorns?
Aside from the oversized unicorn.
Yeah, exactly. What are the most? I mean, what do you come across? What do you see out there with people breaking laws and fishing? I mean, other than operating a boat while you're drinking or whatnot. But what other stuff do you see on the fishing side of things?
The most common stuff is, we fishing without a fishing license. We have that a fair amount. Around here, we have some seasonality tied to some of our fisheries. So, like at South Fork, let's say, you can't keep black bass from March until the end of June, basically. So July 1st is the opener where you can keep black bass, and then it's only one that has to be 15 inches or larger. So
I didn't even know there was a such thing as a black bass.
No, it's a large mouth, small mouth.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sorry. That's how it's written in the regulations.
Okay. I got you.
Yeah, so we run into a fair amount of people who don't pay the regulations enough attention to realize, like, oh, they reel in a nice big old bass, in April or May, and next thing you know, it's on their stringer. Then the game warden walks up and like, hey, tell me about that. And so we run into a fair amount of that. So, keeping them when the season's closed, fishing no license, over limits. We get a fair amount of over limit stuff going on.
Do you give a lot of warnings, or are you citing people? I mean, you kind of just gauge it to see if they seem like an honest person, and just kind of like we talked about before? Or?
No, it's on a case by case basis. We give a fair amount of warnings. We like I said, we try to be very reasonable. And we every contact's different. When it comes down to general regulations or like gross over limits or fishing without a license type of stuff, I mean, it's pretty hard and fast rules with that stuff, and it's you're expected to know the regulations, and it's not so much to be punitive towards that person, but it's not fair to the person down the shore who just paid for a fishing license and is following the rules and packing up his stuff when he's got his limit, and the guy down shore is just cranking him in, putting him in his cooler and going home with 3 times his limit and taking the fish from the other people that are trying to fish. You know, so we do give warnings. We're not out there just cranking out citations for every person.
Right, like you're a half an inch over on this, I'm gonna cite you type
yeah,
thing.
And that's another thing, with like perfect point. You come across someone, if it's a 15-inch minimum and someone's got a 14 3/4 inch bass, I mean, and he says, I I looked at this thing for 20 minutes, making sure it was big enough. I thought it was, and so.
I had my carpenter tape out. It's a little off.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, I can't wait to see the cabinet he built.
Exactly. I mean, that's a little different than a 15-inch fish, with someone keeping. But we understand that some of this is a little convoluted and people make mistakes, honest mistakes. So we handle that accordingly.
So what's the limit now? What is when I was growing up, I believe it was 5.
Mm-hmm. It depends on the body of water you're fishing, but the general, it's 5 trout. Yeah. So South Fork could be 5 trout. After July 1st, you could keep 1 bass that's 15 inches or larger. You keep 1 white wiper, which is a white bass hybrid, and then you can keep 5 channel catfish. So it really depends on the body of water you're fishing. South Fork has specific regulations. Ruby Marshes has specific regulations, but the general is 5 trout typically. But I always warn people, if you're going to go out fishing, get the regulations, look at the specific body of water that you're trying to fish, and make sure if it has specific regs associated with it that you're aware of those.
Is there any laws or rules out there, and this may be a body of water specific thing too, as far as motorized vehicles, so boats, jet skis, and things like that? You get those people interacting with the people that are trying to fish. So you got people that are trying to fish, like, hey, asshole, quit doing that, get away from my shore. Is there actually rules against that, or is that kind of a gentleman's thing, like, hey, man, I'm trying to fish here?
There's hunter harassment laws on the books for if someone's actively, intentionally trying to mess up somebody's hunt, let's say. But there also is the other side of the coin where if I'm out on public land, doing my thing, and someone comes by on a dirt bike doing his thing on public land who is also illegal to be there, it becomes one of those things where no one's really doing anything illegal. Like you said, it becomes a gentleman type of thing to do, or the reasonable person type of thing to do. We've had instances in the past where someone's trying to put a stock on some antelope or some deer or something, and this guy blows past them doing mock whatever down this dirt road, and these guys are pissed because they just blew out all the animals. And it's like, well, they come to us and say, hey, this guy was harassing or messing up my hunt, and it's like, well, he had every right to be there.
Right.
Anything short of him stopping and saying, hey, I'm going to intentionally screw up your hunt right now, and then going and doing it,
right.
it kind of makes it challenging, because it's public land. When you're out on public land, it's a multitude of different things that people can be doing out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so other than hunting and fishing laws, is there anything else that you guys enforce or are in charge of or deal with?
Yeah, so aside from hunting and fishing laws, we are the boating law enforcement agency in the state. So anything that has to do with boating and the laws on the waterways out here, Department of Wildlife actually handles that stuff. So we have boats on the water on South Fork every summer. Wild Horse, we have boats on the Lake Mead. We have probably easily, I don't know, maybe half of our workforce for the whole state of game wardens is down in the southern region. And we patrol Lake Mead and the river down there in Laughlin, and it's constant and it's busy, and there's craziness that occurs on the waters every summer.
Yeah.
Aside from that, we do trapping regulation enforcement. So we go from, we're pretty seasonal jobs. So right now we're kind of in the mix of all our hunting stuff. After this, it kind of winds into our shed antler gathering closure season that they recently passed. And then we're on to trapping season at the same time, or at the beginning of that, and then back into fishing and boating season. So it's constantly changing. Once I get bored of dealing with trappers, I'm right back into checking fishermen and getting on the boat. It seems like.
So talk to me a little bit about shed horn hunting. So when I saw, like I said, my friend Joe Gretsch was 775 outside, him and Johnny Link. They're big into the shed horn hunting, and I'll be honest, when I first moved here, there's a couple friends of mine that are always talking about it. I'm like, you guys walk around the mountains looking for shed horns? Like, what? But it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. But recently, within the past, I want to say 5-10 years, they've put in more restrictions on shed horn hunting. Why?
Yeah, so that's a pretty debated topic, as I'm sure you can understand. Is there's the people that don't agree with it, there's the people that do agree with it, and within the last couple of years, they've decided to put a seasonality and put a closure on it, because mainly during the shed antler gathering season, the animals are typically in their winter grounds a lot of times. They're kind of hurting health wise. They're low on energy, low on fat resources, And what really kind of messes it up for everybody else is you get the people who have no regard for taking their ATV or dirt bike or whatever and just trouncing cross country to try to find as many antlers as they can.
Right.
And naturally with that, they're pushing animals all over the countryside and stressing them out and potentially causing big issues with their health or maybe even killing them in some instances, because some of these animals are pretty depleted that time of year. So the intent of that was to kind of help alleviate that pressure and put a little bit of a seasonality on it and push it back a few months. Like I said, that's a really hot button topic, especially locally, and I can see both sides of it. I can see why people don't understand, because most of the people that don't understand or don't agree with it, most people are out hiking around picking up antlers, and they don't understand. They don't feel like they're pushing animals.
Right. That's from the outside looking in. Like, if the dude wants to walk all day long to find a set of elk antlers, like, so be it. Get after it, man. But the point where you're talking about, where you're actually stressing out the animals when they're basically their recovery time.
Exactly, and that's as with a lot of stuff. It's like the few ruin it for the most. The few guys that have no regard for doing the right thing ruin it and create laws that affect everybody, and that's the unfortunate part about it. But the shed antler thing, it's exploded. I don't even know what time frame I'd put on it, but I talked to some old timers, and they used to go out and just pick up hundreds of antlers just out on the landscape, and now it's almost like it's its own hunting season. When people that are hardcore outdoorsmen are done with their hunting season, they can't do anything else. They're getting out in the hills with their families, and they're picking up an antler, that used to be on an animal's head,
right? And
it's a big old 6-point bull elk antler. It's a cool thing to find.
Sure.
And people are passionate about it. And I like I said, I can see both sides of it. I can see the biological side of it and protecting the wintering animals, and I can see the frustration from the recreating public that are like, man, I just want to go walk around the hills and pick up something on the ground,
Exactly.
So it's a tough one.
Well, I actually had no clue what shed hunting was until I started working with Julie.
Oh, okay.
And she was saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going shed hunting or something like that. I don't know where." And I had to say I don't know what you're talking about.
You're like, they sell sheds right down the road there.
Yeah, right. There's a shed. Yeah, there's a shed right behind the station. You can go over there. But then she explained it to me. I'm like, oh, okay. I had no clue. Honestly, I had never heard of that, because I mean, I've hunted, but I'm not huge into hunting. So Julie helped me out a lot and educating me with a lot of stuff, because she knows her stuff.
Absolutely,
to that kind of stuff. So, Danny, I don't know if you have any more questions.
Well, I really could probably just BS all day about it, but we're kind of tied to a 45-minute show here. So, no, it's cool to get a game warden's perspective on things. Looking forward to having you on in the future. And there's a lot of unknown laws out there. I think there's a lot of what people think actually goes on and what's actually supposed to go on. But no, we appreciate you coming in, and we would like to have you on in the future. One other thing that I will ask you about, though, is chuckers or sage hen or sage grouse, or where I'm from, they're just sage chickens. but so I was when the Ruby pipeline was coming through here, I know that they had shut them down for a brief time out, I think it's 226 out that way, out Mountain City Highway, so they could recover. Is the chucker population, is there that many chucker out there? Because, I mean, they have chucker hunting competition, so it kind of confused me when they put the regulation, you can't do it because there's the chucker suffering, or maybe I'm mixing up two animals. That could very well be.
You're mixing up the chucker and sage grouse, so they're two very different birds. Sage grouse are they're a big, huge bomber-looking, pepper-colored bird that, it looks like a chicken roaming around out there. And those are the ones that are a little more sensitive. Right now, their population is not doing great. We still allow hunting of them, but they will close down specific areas based on what they're seeing with LEC surveys, which is their breeding grounds. They'll do surveys, and if they're not seeing the numbers that they want to see, then they don't want to take any chances. They'll shut it down to hunting completely. Chucker, on the other hand, in the state of Nevada, just like talking, you're from Oregon, there's similar parts of Oregon there's chucker everywhere.
Right.
And they're a smaller bird. They're a partridge type of bird. We have a lot of chucker, and their populations kind of ebb and flow. They go up and down based on moisture and feed. They, like you said, you're exactly right. They do a tournament out of Battle Mountain, the chukar tournament every year.
Right.
So yeah, we have healthy chukar populations. General areas will kind of go up and down as to how well the population is doing, and they try to put out a forecast every year. The department does, to kind of give the public an idea of what that looks like. But yeah, the sage grouse is an entirely different animal,
Gotcha.
quote unquote, to where it's real sensitive in its population numbers, and there's speculation that in the future, we may not even be able to hunt them with how they're kind of trending. So, but at the moment, we still do hunt them. They're around. They're the big ones that you're driving down the road and they pop out from what looks to be like next to your tire,
right,
and it looks like a turkey flying across the landscape, And they're I kind of joke that they're kind of like the dodo bird. I mean, the dodo bird, like, they're not very bright.
They're extinct for a reason,
right? Yeah. I mean, sage grouse, sometimes it seems like you could walk up and just kind of kick them along, every once in a while. But so yeah, that's what you were seeing was the
Gotcha.
sage grouse stuff.
What about coyotes? Coyotes, open season on coyotes all the time?
Open season, yep. They're unprotected, so you can hunt them any time of the year. No license requirements.
Yeah, that's you said that. I was driving to a softball tournament down in Eureka, and this hunting buddy of mine, saw a coyote and no shit, pulled over and took a shot at it. I'm like, dude, I don't know if you could do that, man. But he's like, oh yeah, you can shoot coyotes whenever you want. I was like,
yep.
Okay.
You do realize you're talking to the game warden.
Well, that's why I was making sure that it was legal all year round.
Make sure to mention that he got out of the truck.
No, he was out of the truck, away from the truck, put a bullet in after he hit the pavement. Yes, absolutely.
And don't you have to be, because you can't do it from the road, right? You have
there's regulations on roadways. It kind of depends on the classification of the road. So you have to be off the road when you're shooting, and if it's a bigger highway type of road, you got to be on the other side of the right of way fence even. So
I'm sure he had permission from the rancher, so it was all good.
No, that question would have been a lot shorter if I'd have said, "Oh yeah, you got to have a tag." And
yeah, that's why we opened with the coyotes are open season, right?
Yeah, I was just making sure. All right, so I think we're gonna finish up, but I know that. Do you guys tag some animals to keep track of them, or does the Department of Wildlife do that?
Yeah, we do. We have collaring projects that go on throughout different parts of the state with different species. They have, they'll collar bighorn sheep, deer, elk, all sorts of stuff. There's a multitude of things that we do. We have projects going on where we're trying to track the health of elk in some portions of the state. In the northern part of Elko County, they go as far as putting collars on them and then putting sensors in their throat to get down into their rumen to track their body temperature, because we are having some deaths that are kind of weird that they can't really track down why they're dying. So they do all sorts of cool stuff. They got telemetry, they got GPS tracking stuff going on. So yeah, every once in a while you'll see a critter running around with a necklace on its neck. Yep.
So since you found a unicorn, do you want to track it? Since I don't think anyone else has found a unicorn.
I kind of feel like it's probably just going to go to your house, right? It's going into your bedroom. Is your little snuggly
it's next to his pillow? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's snuggle with it tonight. But if you want to track that unicorn, because we're going to track Sasquatch, that's for sure. When you catch it next time, we got to find a Sasquatch,
little monkey thing. Yeah.
Stuffed animal.
Right.
Well, Danny, if you got anything else, and
I'll ask one more question. Like I said, I could really sit here and bullshit all day about it. But so you talk. I went out to Wild Horse for the first time in 20 years. I'd never been out to Wild Horse. Went out there this last year, and you guys had a check station just coming off of Mountain City Highway. They're basically checking for invasive species on the boats.
Oh, the invasive aquatic species.
Right. So, do you got to be a biological engineer to know what you're looking for there? What are you looking for when you're talking about these invasive species?
Yeah. So basically, in the southern part of our state and down in Lake Mead, there's quagga mussels that become a huge problem down there. So they're little aquatic invasive, almost like a I don't even know what you'd call them, like a snail type of a thing that they attach to the boats, to the hold. They get in the anywhere water can go, they get in there, and they can be spread anywhere you put that boat on the water again. So basically what we do is we set up these check stations that make you stop, that check your boat to make sure you're not taking your boat off of Lake Mead and running it up to Wild Horse or running it up into Tahoe and putting it in there and spreading that type of stuff. So once those invasive species get introduced into there, there's no way that they have not figured out a way to catch up with them and get rid of them fully. So it's become a just learn to live with it type of scenario. So we really do not want to have that stuff spread. We want to try to.
We don't want any Vegas up here. That's what you're telling me. I think that's kind of across the board there.
So what do they do when you say evasive? What is it that they do? So let's say that they would be kind of introduced to South Fork. What is the danger in that, or what do they do?
So to my understanding, I'm not really up to speed too much on how they work, but my understanding is like what they'll do is they get in the waterway and they just procreate like crazy, and they spread to numbers where you can't even, like I said, you can't catch back up with them. They almost basically like clarify and purify the water, so it takes the food sources away from the other endemic species that are there, and it can kill off other wildlife species, not directly but indirectly over time. So it basically takes over, and it's kind of weird because it can actually clear up the water, but it's taking away food sources for the fish and other stuff in the water. So they basically get in there and just take over everything. They're clogging up the waterways down there. They have to have like a special systems for when they're pulling the water off of mead, because they'll clog everything up. It's just like you get the hard water build up in your pipes at your house. That's kind of what they do.
Huh. Wow. Cool.
That's crazy.
And I'm sure I butchered some of that. There's people in our department that specify in that stuff, and they're experts in it, but that's my general understanding.
Right, yeah, that's definitely educational.
Danny and I always attempt to sound smart, but whether we are or not is
at the end of the day, we're just dumb sports guys.
So you sounded smart enough.
Well, that's good. That's good to know.
I bought it 100%.
Yeah, I did too. Oh, okay, yeah. So this guy's purple.
Someone's going to be out there watching this and go, that guy's full of BS. But that's all right.
And if you are, please comment. We thank you for watching. We appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, Buck. Well, is there anything else that you want to get out there?
No. Basically, just as we talked about earlier on in the show, the public is huge for us. So if you're out there and you see something that you feel like it might be illegal or something tiki's going on, especially related to wildlife or fishing or boating or trapping, give us a call. We appreciate the information. We do have a new app. It's called the NDOW Tip app. You can go on Google Play, anywhere you download apps for your phone, and it's actually an app you can download directly on your phone. If you're out there hunting and you got phone service and you see something weird, you can open that app up and report a tip directly to our dispatch using your phone and an app. So that's been awesome. We've been getting a lot of good tips from that. Basically just we appreciate the public, and they're our eyes. We don't have a lot of us, so we appreciate the help.
How can you want to throw a phone number out there?
Oh man, you're gonna get me on this one. Our OGT hotline.
Google.
It's usually on my business card. I can't.
Danny, I'll let you
I should
take
have
over real
memorized.
quick.
I should have it memorized, but I have a horrible memory.
So just jumping back to invasive species, is there just like one is it that mussel you're looking for basically, or
basically there's a couple of them. The quagga mussel is a big one. I believe there's a zebra mussel as well. That's kind of real similar in that aspect, but that's mostly what it is to keep that stuff out.
And does that, is that one of them things you just turn them around and tell them, nope, get out of here, or is that something they can clean off on the spot? Or?
You can clean it. So the kind of the mantra is to clean, drain, and dry it. So once you pull it from the water, it's best to clean it all off completely, drain all water out, and let it completely dry before you go put it in another body of water.
And that should be a practice that boaters do all the time, right?
It should be. If you're in a local body of water that's all you ever do is go into that body of water, it's not as big of a deal. But it's a good practice to have. It keeps your boat clean. It keeps you from spreading stuff that shouldn't be spread.
Sure, absolutely. You got that number yet, Pedro?
Yep, I got the local number. There is a hotline, but I want to make sure I get the right one, so I know this is the right one, at least for the office. If you do want to get a hold of the Nevada Department of Wildlife, you can call them at 777-2300. That's for Elko area.
The Operation Game Thief hotline is the good one. That goes straight to our dispatch, and they can dispatch a on-duty warden if they receive a call on that hotline. It's a 1-800 number. I don't know. I can't believe I'm spacing it right now, but
no, you're good. I think I have it. I just want to make sure I have the right one. Is it?
That's Texas.
Is it 800?
Texas
if you read it off, I'll be able to tell you if it is.
Is it 800?
No.
1667?
No, that's not it.
Well, Danny's going to look it up. Either way,
yeah.
While Danny's looking
no,
it up.
I feel dumb. I should have that memorized.
While Danny's looking that up, you and I can. What the heck is my? No, I don't want you to.
What's coming up on your computer, Pedro?
Don't worry about what's on my computer. So, Buck and I.
1-800-992-3030.
30-30. That's it.
There you go.
Once again, Operation Game Thief. 1-800-992-3030.
Okay.
I always remember the 30-30. I can't remember the 992 one.
There you go. Well, what I was getting at is any reminiscing that you want, because did we have classes together in junior high? I think we did.
We probably did. Junior high is such a weird blur to me, though. I don't know why.
Well, trust me, I'm getting there too. Danny's always giving me a hard time because I forget just about everything.
Just about everything. Everything. I had to set up reminders on his phone for our show.
And even then, I forget.
Did you see it? Yeah. What did it say? I don't know.
I forgot. I don't remember. When did we talk about this?
Right.
So,
no, reminiscing wise, I mean, some of my best memories are playing Little League baseball, Babe Ruth baseball. You know, I think we ended up on a team together in Babe Ruth baseball, didn't we?
oh yes. Well, Mariners. Was it the Mariners?
I'm trying to remember.
Who was coaching? That's the question.
Weren't me and you on a team with Matt Murray was our coach?
Oh, with Matt.
Yep.
Oh, Matt Murray. Oh, all right. Yeah.
What was the name of
Yankees.
the team?
Was it the Yankees?
I don't remember.
I don't know. But that was good times. That was a lot of fun. We had a lot of good guys on that team. When it comes to school stuff, I mean, biology class, and there's not a lot. I mean, it's to keep PG. I mean, stuff got thrown into fish tanks, and it was just there was craziness. I was never doing that stuff, obviously.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, neither were you. We were.
There was other people doing it, but. Yeah, I totally forgot about that team that we were on with Matt Murray. I totally spaced
that. That was a fun year. We had a good team.
We
did well. Yep.
Matt still. I mean, he announced for us here this last couple of years. He's still involved. I mean, Matty just graduated here a couple of years ago. So yeah, he's still around. I
still keep in touch with Matt. Yeah, he's a good friend.
Yeah. We love the Elko Little League, definitely.
Oh yeah, Matt was super cool to us, and he was a super cool coach. I mean, he was, especially with down to earth guys like us. You know, he was almost like a friend.
That was probably the funnest year I had playing baseball. One of the funnest. It was a good time.
Yep. So I think we're going to finish up, Danny, unless you have anything else.
I'm all good, man. I'm all good.
All right, Buck. Well, we appreciate you coming on. This was cool. And thanks for reeling in and finding the unicorn.
You made it easy on me. I'm usually not that good at fishing.
We did good scouting.
Yeah, we did. We have one of those GPS things that go in the water. And
the unicorn finder.
I was hoping to find a dinosaur so we could say it was the Loch Ness Monster.
Oh, there you go.
But I couldn't find one. So, all right, we're going to finish up. We got Talking Sports with Pedro and Danny coming up here at 6 o'clock. So thank you again. Buck, if you want to throw your name and position out there real quick.
Yeah, Buck Tingle. I'm the Eastern Region Game Warden Lieutenant based out of Elko. All
right. Thanks for coming in, and this was a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed the coffee.
Thanks for having me on. Coffee was great.
Okay, so we are out of here. Thank you to our...
Sorry. See you in a couple hours.
Thank you to our sponsors, Collective Coffee Roasters, for the great coffee. It really is good coffee, by the way.
Yes.
But we're going to finish up Coffee with a Cop.
Yeah, Guyetta Group's coming on, and our friend Alden Donston from the NIAA. Actually, he's not from the NIAA. He's from the NENOA, Northeastern Nevada Officials Association. Talk a little bit about official shortage and his experience down at Allegiant Stadium doing some 2A state championship. So tune in here in a couple hours.
All right, thanks for watching, guys. Battleborn Media Networks.